on the court. And I think that's what he would want for us to do. No one knows how much time we have. That's why we must live in the moment. We must enjoy the moment. We must reach and see and spend as much time as we can with our families and friends and the people that we absolutely love. To live in the moment means to enjoy each and every one that we come in contact with. When Kobe Bryant died, a piece of me died. And as I look in this arena and across the globe, a piece of you died, or else you wouldn't be here. Those are the memories that we have to live with and we learn from. I promise you, from this day forward, I will live with the memories of knowing that I had a little brother that I tried to help in every way I could. Please, rest in peace, little brother.
When Kobe Bryant died, a piece of me died. Such powerful words. And so we're here at the year anniversary of Kobe Bryant's transition, and Kamau and I, being such big fans of him, who were positively influenced by his legacy in so many ways, thought it would be fitting, given the timing of things, to kick off the second season of The Revolution Will Be live streamed by talking about life lessons from the legacy of the Mamba himself. How you doing, brother Kamau?
This is tough. It was crazy when I found out yesterday was the year anniversary, and some interesting things happened yesterday. Just things in my life came through. I know some things in family life came through, and it was just interesting. I was just looking up at the sky, and I was just like, are you watching over us? You were such a fundamental part of, a lot of young Black men in this country, people who look at themselves as high achievers, whether they're huge basketball fans or not. I think you were able to draw inspiration from what Kobe Bryant did. And it hits really home for me. So it's a little bit of emotional time, an emotional day, but I'm excited to talk about it and honor his legacy.
Yeah, man. Me too, brother. I remember when I found out that he passed away, it truly did feel like a family member passed. I don't typically track everything that happens with celebrities, and I don't usually go on and on about a particular celebrity when something like that happens. You recognize it, you pay respects, but this one hit home. It felt like a brother. The way I talk about it is, for me, growing up in Chicago, Michael Jordan was a hero, and he had a kind of godlike status. And when you watched him, you looked up to him. But when Kobe Bryant came along, I grew up with him. We were the same age. And Kobe Bryant was kind of like the brother who made the hero understandable, the brother who broke it down and exemplified it in a way that made it kind of like attainable to your mind. Kobe took the idea of greatness, brought it down from the heavens and showed it to us and was like, this is something that you can do. This is something that you can be in your own way. I'm going to show you how to become a student of greatness. And I felt that, man. And I remember being on the phone with my pop, and I was just saying, man, I'm really broken up about this Kobe thing. And he said to me, he goes, hey, son, death is a part of life. And he goes, you just have to be thankful for what you had and learn from it. And I said, I know, Pop, but I'm just really hurting about this. And he was like, oh, you'll be okay, man. And we hung up the phone, and then he calls me right back. And he says, hey, son, I just want to let you know, man, it's okay to cry over a hero. He said, that's how I felt when MLK died. That's how I felt when JFK died. I cried when those guys died. He said, if you got somebody that you look up to that meant something, it's okay to cry when they go, man. He goes, I understand. And that was just such a great connection point between me and my pop, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, but don't worry. It's kind of funny. I was just going to say, it's kind of funny because it feels weird to cry about somebody that you've never met, somebody
Yeah.
that you've never had a conversation with, that you might have never even seen in person. Like, I've seen Kobe play at a game, but I was like 15, 20 rows back, up in the stands where he never even knew I existed. And it's kind of weird because in a way we were detached from him, but we were so close to him at the same time, right? Like he allowed us to be a part of this journey to mastery, and he just did it on such a high level and on such an available stage that it just reached so many people that you felt close to him. And then I think when somebody's so passionate, it was seething out of his pores, and you could just feel it. You could feel the passion. It wasn't just a matter of watching it. Like, there was nights, like I remember when he dropped 60 points on his last game, on his very last game. I was on the bed, like jumping up and down, like screaming, like just losing my mind. And I think when somebody is playing with that kind of passion, it doesn't matter, how far they are. You still feel connected. You can still relate to that, and you still put yourself in that shoes. And it's just infectious. I think with us even being virtual, right? Like, we're still able to have a connection. We're still able to have a good conversation, even though, you're hundreds of miles away from me. And I think the same is true. Like, even though Kobe, did his thing on different parts of the world and was in rooms that we will never be in, I still felt such a connection to him, and I still drew so much inspiration from his work. So it does hurt. But he, like I said, he was far, but he was just as close at the same time.
Yeah, well, I'm asking you to put on your Mamba hat today, man, your Mamba jersey today, because we're going to go through some Kobe clips, just moments of him talking or moments of people talking about him. And we're just going to riff on him, man, talk about what that means for us personally and what people can learn from it. So I want to go to this next clip about an aspect of Kobe that I know you and I are very passionate about and that we model a big part of our lives after. It's about Kobe, the student of the game.
Talking about Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan.
Oh, well, this is the matchup that everybody's been waiting to see.
I learned a lot this game. A lot about how technically sound Michael was. Because it's one thing in watching him play, and then it's another thing in playing against him.
He's now in a postgraduate course.
Yeah, boy. Accelerated learning.
His technique was flawless. I wanted to make sure my technique was just as flawless.
Been down at half court, and he wanted to know how, when I turn around on my jump shot, how to feel the defense. I told him you should feel the defense with your legs. Once you feel the defense with your legs, you can take advantage of that.
That was very inspiring for me. I remember being a kid and going to games.
That's we can pause right here for a second. Yeah. Yeah, man, that moment right there, brother. What do you feel when you watch that?
The last thing I noticed is how Kobe walked right past him. Like, it didn't come to him at the end. It was like, hey, brother, I appreciate it. This was such a cool game. He walked straight past him like I'm headed to the tunnel. So I love that, right? Like, your idols become your rivals, and you still are going to go just as hard. But I really like the fact that Kobe, it just shows how detail oriented he was. That the devil's in the details, and that he knew the reason that Michael, I think, any kind of high achiever, right? Like, when they're doing all of these cool things, particularly in basketball, when they're making all these really cool moves and dancing and just floating through the air, and it just looks so beautiful and so easy. But to get to that point, there is a lot of fundamental. There's a lot of fundamentals that have to be established in order for you to get experimental and to try new things and to put your own flair on it. You have to be grounded in the fundamentals. So I think that's what he was pointing out at. And even as a professional basketball player, being able to look at Michael on TV and see like, wow, like this cat is doing amazing things. But when I play against him in real life, not only does he do those amazing things, but he's able to do those because his fundamentals are sound. Like there's no error in his fundamentals. He does everything by the books. And so I think, just that being able to recognize that just kind of speaks to that detail-oriented mindset.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Kobe was one of the most confident players to ever step on the court. And he had a big ego, right? He had the kind of defiant arrogance that you need to be able to do great things. But what I love about this moment is that it shows how that confidence was grounded in vulnerability. The willingness to admit when you don't understand something, and the willingness to recognize when somebody else is better than something you need to be good at. Sometimes competitiveness, it gets framed as this never let them see you bleed mindset. Competitiveness is never let anybody catch you asking a question, right? But Kobe was ruthlessly unafraid about other people seeing him in learning mode, even if it made him look maybe stupid to other people, even if other people were like, what are you doing asking that guy a question? We in the middle of trying to beat them in the game. He did not care about how he had to look. All he cared about was being great. And he cared about being great so much that he was willing to, at any moment, take the moment that he was in, including competitive moments, and transform it into a lesson, because he just had that long game vision, that hunger for greatness. Did that come through? I saw myself freeze for a second.
Yeah, it broke up on my end.
Yeah. Well, that last point was just that Kobe has such a passion for greatness that he was willing to take any moment that he was in, including competitive moments, and transform it into like his personal classroom. And he didn't care how he looked in the process. Yeah. Now I'm gonna flip it, because I'm gonna play I'm gonna play another clip. That's one more about his relationship to Jordan. And this has to do with when he first started out, certain guys warned him about Mike and how he needed to approach it. And this is what Kobe had to say in response.
Time I was getting ready to face Jordan, I had a teammate. He goes to me and said, hey, you want some advice? Whatever you do, don't look him in the eye. Wait, excuse me? Why the hell would I not look him in the eye? I don't think my teammate understood that I'm that too.
Michael to the hook line, all the way to the hoop for the dunk.
Can't look me in the eye either, buddy.
I'm that too. I need that on a t-shirt, bro. When somebody tell you, hey, don't look that guy in the eye, fear that guy. That's the dude right there that you getting ready to work for, work with, play against. And when you can say, hey, I'm that too. I'm made out of the same substance of greatness that man you're looking up to is made out of. And I plan on coming at him in the same way that he comes at me. And even if I happen to be overconfident and look stupid in the process, the only way you will ascend, the only way you will get to those higher levels is treating yourself like you got the power and capacity to get there, man. I love that. I'm that too. That's my daily mantra ever since I saw that clip.
It's definitely that mano y mano, right? Like you are not above me. I'm gonna serve you up just like you served me up. And I'm not afraid. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? When it comes to people who are dominant, who are leaders, who impose their will. I think the psychological effects that they have on their opponents is that they scare people, that they're intimidating. And I think to the extent that you allow that to happen to you, that you allow yourself to get intimidated by the moment, or you get scared by the opposition, you're going to fold. You're not going to show up as an equal. You're going to show up as lesser. And so much of that is just the mindset going into that I'm here for a reason, and I'm about to do what I came to do, regardless of who I'm facing.
Yeah, and if you listen to the way Jordan talked about him, there's this tremendous amount of respect that he has for Kobe. And it illustrates a really powerful lesson, which is people will like you more if you are agreeable, but they will respect you more if you're challenging. And sometimes we're afraid to contend with people because we know that contention might make them a little uncomfortable, and we really want to be liked by them. And this is really important if you look up to them or if you want to learn from them. But there's just a big difference, man, between being liked and being respected. And sometimes the best way to honor another person and to be honored by them is to compete. It is to push them. It is to challenge them and say, I'm not here to be just another yes man. I'm not here to be just another fanboy. I'm not here to be just another starstruck person who feels honored and grateful just to be in your presence and breathe the same air. But I'm here to actually make you better. You know, I think that just commands a different level of respect. And that's somewhat of a lost art. You know, you hear a lot of people asking about, hey, how can I find a great mentor? And that usually boils down to, hey, there are a bunch of people out there that are so successful that I'm starstruck by them. How can I, achieve this position of getting to be around them all the time? And one of the best ways to do that is to not actually be a flattering person who is constantly stroking that person's ego so that they can be your mentor, but it's actually to become the kind of person who can create value for them at a level that they can't do for themselves and that the people around them might not even dare to do because they don't want to be contentious,
Yeah, I think when it comes to legacy, being liked is not really the thing that's going to help you. If you want to build a legacy that continues after you, and you want to build a name, and you want to change something, a lot of times that's not going to come because you agreed with the status quo or you agreed with what everybody else is saying. I think the people who dare to be different, the people who dare to bring it, they're not likely going to be liked. They're going to be whatever they're going to be, right? Whatever that narrative happens to be. It is what it is. And I think to an extent, you have to come to peace with that. You have to come to peace with you're not going to be the fan favorite necessarily just because you smile in front of the camera or you crack jokes. Like if you want to do it, then you can't be afraid to ruffle some feathers and shake some things up.
Yeah, I think one way of making it easier to do that is realizing that you don't have a choice. Like if you say something like, well, I don't need to be the best basketball player in the world, so I don't have this thing that I want to be so great at that I'm willing to be unlike. I enjoy people and I just want to be loved by people. And so I'm just going to focus my life on being nice and good to people. Well, guess what? There are a whole lot of people who ain't going to like you because of that. There's no escape from being disliked. Right. So that means it's futile in any direction to pick your lifestyle based on what you think is going to get you liked the most, because it's going to be haters in any direction. And so you've got to pick who you want to be based on conviction, based on what you value. And then you've got to accept, since it's inevitable that I'm going to be disliked anyway, I just choose to be disliked in the direction of things that matter to me.
And on the other side of that, though, have faith that there are people who will like you for choosing that path. I think, it's one thing to accept, like, I'm going to be disliked, because a lot of times you might be disliked by your family, or you might be disliked by your friends or the people who are closest to you that that they're going to have an adverse reaction to the path that you're moving on. But there are people who are like you that do appreciate you and your boldness to step out and be that person, to step out and be the person that the majority of people don't like. There is a subset of people who will like you for choosing to embody that and being brave.
Yeah, internet's so good for that, man. I remember growing up pre-internet, and it was like, if you're interested in something and nobody in your neighborhood is interested in it, you out of luck, right? You out of luck. If you into sci-fi and the kids in your neighborhood are into basketball, well then, hey, you just get to be the nerd who doesn't have any sci-fi friends, or you got to not talk about it to be able to get along. And this interconnected world that we live in now makes it possible for us to connect with people more easily than ever, with folks who didn't grow up with us, with folks who don't live in our neighborhood. And we're more likely to be friends with somebody that lives across the world. And so when you start to think non-locally, it's like it's a whole lot of people out there. And whatever you're into, there's a market for it. There's somebody that's into what you're into. And no matter, as you said, how many people hate you for however you choose to be or need to be, there's always going to be somebody out there that love you for exactly who you are. So other people's reason for making fun of you is somebody else's definition of cool. Hey, I pulled a couple of clips from this interview. I encourage everybody to go check it out in full because it's pretty motivating. It's called Kobe Bryant's Last Great Interview. And I want to play one clip from that where Kobe talked about what separated him from other NBA players. And I'd like to riff with you on that about, man, what that says about success and prioritization.
But, in the NBA, it was actually easier because what I found in the NBA is a lot of guys played for financial stability. And when they came to the NBA, they got that financial stability. So therefore, the passion and the work ethic and the obsessiveness was gone. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be like taking candy from a baby. No wonder Mike wins all these fucking championships. It's like, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then you had the players that had that passion, but weren't willing to commit their entire lives to doing that, right? It's a choice, right? You have other things. You have family. You have all these other things that you have to do. The game can't really be your number one priority. And so I was just looking at that like, man, this is going to be fun.
Man, I never thought about something like being a professional basketball player as a thing that people would just do for the money. Because usually when we think about being a person that's just obsessed with making money and success, we usually think about that as the suit and tie wearing guy who goes to work for corporate America. And we usually associate doing what you love with certain kind of jobs, like being a musician, being an entertainer, being an athlete or something like that. And Michael Jordan was the guy who red pilled me on this idea that following your passion and doing what you love, it's not about the particular job, that there are sellouts in every job. There are people who choose to be great and creative in every job. And so, for the love of the game, Jordan talked about this with the NBA. He said what a lot of people didn't realize is that there are guys who are in the NBA because they're naturally good, they're athletically superior, it's always come natural to them. And ever since they were young, they've just kind of had a path laid out for them that created all these natural advantages. And so when people go to the NBA, not everybody cares about winning. Not everybody cares about being a part of history. Not everybody cares about actualizing their full potential as a player. Some guys are just happy to be making a lot of money. And that's what they do. They play for the money and they play for the perks. And he said he found out that it was really rare to have a person that was focused on getting better. And he said, so when you see somebody that can play for 10 years and their free throw shot never gets better, their dribbling never gets better, you're probably watching one of those guys who does it for the money. And to me, that's just a powerful illustration of the fact that if you want to be someone who doesn't sell your soul, if you want to be someone who succeeds in this meaningful, heartfelt way, don't think for a minute that you're achieving that just because you stay away from office jobs or just because you stay away from working at a bank or whatever it is you might have stereotyped as being a sellout job. Because being a sellout ain't about the job. It's about the integrity with which you approach it. It's about your willingness to be truthful for yourself. And you can be an actor or a comedian or an artist and still be selling yourself short if you're not being true to that impulse within you that wants to be great.
Absolutely. I was actually talking about this on a podcast that a couple years back, I worked at Trader Joe's, and there was a point in time where, you just kind of go along to get along. It's a job. You're making $12 an hour. You can ring some groceries, you put stuff on the shelf, you smile, it's pretty straightforward. I think that there is a range, just like any job, of good employees. You could be a great employee and be on top of everything and do this and do that. And a lot of times the crew will look at you and it's like, what is this guy doing? Like, why is he doing all this? And then, there's the other side where you're just kind of a mediocre employee and you think you're cool because I'm just here just doing my job. I don't really care about this. Like, I'm just going to go home and play video games. Like, my life is cooler than Trader Joe's. There was a point in time where I just got tired of being a sucky employee. Like, it's easy to be a sucky employee. You're just there to collect the check. But I think if you're a person who has any kind of passion about yourself, you can't, I think it naturally irritates you to be bad, to be sucky, to just slack. And I experienced that at Trader Joe's, and I just decided to try, to give, to do, to be, and to just exude more. And obviously, it worked. And obviously, things really started to go well for me. But the reason I bring it up is because in this interview, I was talking about this question with another guy, and we were talking about Kobe. And my true belief is that if Kobe was at Trader Joe's, he would be the exact same Kobe. That pursuit to excellence is a transferable skill. It doesn't just happen in one job. It doesn't just happen in one thing. It's something that if you know how to cultivate that, if you can get yourself into that mindset that you show up for yourself, you're gonna show up for yourself in multiple different aspects of life. Like, yes, Kobe was a fantastic basketball player, world renowned, but when it came to him transitioning to the next part of his career, he won an Oscar 2 years after he finished basketball. I mean, people have been in the film and entertainment business for decades, 30, 40 years without ever winning an Oscar. And this guy comes in and just wins an Oscar. This is a basketball player. But that shows you that commitment to excellence is a transferable thing. It doesn't just exist in this one profession, or it doesn't just exist in these passion-oriented jobs. But it's a true commitment. And I think on the other side, being committed to being mediocre, or being committed to chasing the buck, or being committed to just going along to get along is also a thing that transfers in various aspects of life.
Yeah, if you can't do what you love, you can at least start practicing the mentality you'll need when you start doing what you love. You can practice a winner's mindset even if you feel like you're currently losing at life. So there's this idea that Kobe and Shaq used to talk about a lot during the Lakers heyday, and it was this idea of flipping the switch. One of the mistakes that great teams and great players often make is they think they can flip the switch whenever they want. So if they're playing a mediocre team, we don't have to try hard tonight. And that team gets up by 18 points. We're in the fourth quarter. Okay, let's flip the switch. And now let's show these guys who we really are. And more often than not, when you play the game that way, what happens is you might make a run for it, but you end up losing by 6 points to some team that should have never been in a position to beat you in the first place because you thought you could flip the switch. And champions are people that never take the flip the switch mentality. They're always on. And when they're playing a mediocre team, they treat it like this is the championship game. And I'm actually going to not take my ability to come back from a deficit for granted. And I love that statement you made that if Kobe worked at Trader Joe's, he would have that same mentality. And sometimes we have jobs like that and we think, well, this doesn't deserve that kind of mentality. Well, maybe it doesn't, but you deserve it. And if you ever want to do something that's bigger than that, then you might as well start practicing the mentality now. I remember when I made up my mind to do that, because I did not always have that mindset. I spent a lot of time resenting jobs, looking down at myself for having this job, feeling kind of embarrassed to admit that I worked at a certain place. And I remember one time, this was when I was working as a server at Applebee's, I was just choosing to work with pride. And I remember I was serving this lady, and she said to me, she goes, "Young man, I don't know what you want to do with your life." She says, "But I can tell you serious." She says, "You serious." And she says, "If you keep that up, just keep being serious, you'll go as far as you want to go. And her words stuck with me, you know, because even though I made up my mind I was going to work hard, I wasn't sure that working hard was actually working. And what she said kind of confirmed something that I was young enough to be suspicious about, but I wasn't experienced enough yet to be confident in. And that's something that helped me get to a higher level in life. So it's never too early to practice the winner's mindset, even if you feel like you might be losing right now. I want to talk about this next clip, man. This is where Kobe's going to talk about friendship and his work ethic and how it affected his relationships. And this one should be a good one for us because it raises some issues that can be a little controversial when we talk about the pursuit of success and meaning.
In the Muse, you said, I knew you couldn't do what I was doing because I was obsessed. I'm paraphrasing. And then you said, whether it's friends, relationship, it didn't matter. It was all basketball.
Yeah.
If I'm buddies with you from high school, if I'm a cousin of yours, what happened to our relationship? How did that gravitate when you went into the league and you're determined to become the greatest, or you're determined to become one of the greatest? What happens to our relationship?
Oh, it suffers.
It does suffer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you understood that. You were okay with that.
Well, yeah. And the people that love you, like friends and family, like they know that about you.
Got it.
So they let you be you. And when you reconvene, you know, you pick back up where you left off. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake about it, everything in between is lost, right? So those long-term relationships, the commitment of time of, taking vacation. Like I see a lot of players take vacations with other players that are close friends. And they'll just take vacations just to take vacations, or just hang out just to hang out. Like I never did that. But
why not though? Why didn't you do that?
Well, because when I retire, I didn't want to have to say, I wish I would have done more. I don't want that. You know, I don't want that.
I'm gonna take a stab at this one first because there was a couple interesting things, specifically when he was talking about taking vacations. You know, I think I'm a challenge that notion, and I'm a challenge that under the premise of surrounding yourselves with the kinds of people that you would like to be like. You know, like if I'm Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan says, "Hey, let's go on a fishing trip." Let's take that fucking fishing trip, man. I would love to be in the same boat with you and let's talk. Let's have an opportunity to talk about that, man. And I think when you're around the same kind of calibers of people, and if you're not, you know, if you're in a place where the people that you're hanging out with aren't necessarily at the level that you aspire to be, level up and get around people who are like that. And then when you do, I think it makes complete sense to have those people around you. I don't think you have to be isolated. Now, Kobe Bryant is a different breed. Obviously, there is very few people in history who did things at the level that he did. So I can understand if there's just average players in the league that he's not trying to kick it with. But I think if there's other elite players, that it does make sense to surround yourselves with. But one of the things that he said in the last clip that I think is still relevant in this clip is giving your entire self to the game. I think that's scary. I know it's scary for me. There's the game, I think, is just a figurative term that applies to whatever aspect of life you're giving yourself to, whether that is podcasting, whether that is public speaking, whether that is, you know, being a writer or a musician. I think it is scary to give 100% of yourself to that thing. You want to save some time for your family. You want to save some time for your friends. You want to save some time for whatever else you want to save some time for. I get it. You know, I think in a lot of literature, a lot of things out there tell us that having a balanced life is healthy, is more sustainable, XYZ. And I think what Kobe really showcased throughout his legacy, throughout his life, throughout his bodies of work, is that he was all in on whatever he was in on at that moment. There was no wiggle room from that commitment. You know, he had a pretty sizable family between Vanessa and the girls. You know, I'm sure he had a ton of friends and a ton of fans who wanted to be, you know, there. He had other passions like storytelling, like learning. But when it came to basketball, more than any other player I've known and I've seen and I've studied, he poured tremendous amounts of time. He really did give him like 100%, 110% effort. And I think that's scary to a lot of people. It's scary to dive into the deep end and just give that much of yourself to any one thing.
Yeah, man, I think that word balanced and balanced life needs to be replaced with healthy. Everybody needs to live a healthy life. But if by balance you mean equally distribute your time, energy, and attention across all the things that you need to do in life, then that's a recipe for misery and failure. Because in life, you are going to have preferences. You are going to have priorities. You are going to have experiences and desires that mean more to you than other experiences and desires. And if you think about how fun it is to play chess all the time, or you think about how fun it is to build things all the time, you can't afford to waste your life by saying, oh, well, I'm going to spend an equal amount of time on all the other things as I do building or playing chess because I want to live a balanced life. Like, no, you need to create more time and space for the things that really make you come alive, for the things that really fire you up, because that's what's healthy for you. And sometimes we get caught up in these universal prescriptions for success and health that we confuse what that person needs to do in order to be the best version of themselves with what somebody else needs to do in order to be the best version of themselves. And I think this is why I tend to get a little bit apologetic on behalf of guys like Kobe and Michael, because if you hear somebody say things like, yeah, you know, sometimes I like to take vacations and take a little break from work, everyone will praise that. That's not controversial at all. Everyone will be like, yeah, that's great. That's healthy. But if you hear a guy like Kobe be like, you know, I never really did that. I wanted to leave it all on the floor. I wanted to spend that time working on my game. People will be like, oh, well, that's really not healthy. That's really obsessive. And what they really mean is that sounds like a depressing life to them. And that's okay. That's good for you to know that. Like when you listen to someone like Kobe describe what his dream is, if that sounds depressing to you, you should pay attention to that so that you can go do the thing that's not depressing to you. But for him, he never expressed regret about that. You know, he believed deeply in that because, like you said, that was the game that he wanted to play. And so you want to be obsessed about the game that you want to play, but you want to be equally obsessed about defining what that game is for you. What are the games you will have no regrets being obsessed about? To me, that part is key.
Yeah, I also liked, I think, how he started the clip off by saying, I never wanted to look back and say, I wish I gave more. Ah, man, that is so true. Like I've definitely felt that. I think everybody's felt that, right? Where there's something that may have not gone your way, or that you felt like could have gone better, or that, you know, you just, even if it went well, like you just wanted more out of that thing. And you knew, I think people have to be honest with themselves that, you know, when you can do more, you know, when you can give more, and to be haunted by that fear that I'm going to look back and I'm going to regret this is for me, I think it's a good thing. Like it's an aspect of self-awareness, and I try to respect that. I think a lot of people, especially young people, millennials, Gen Z folks, they can relate to the notion of FOMO, fear of missing out, not wanting to be there, wanting to be here, you know, wanting to be seen, wanting to experience the thing. And I think this is just a different version of that. It's the fear of it's the fear of knowing that you didn't do enough. It's the fear of knowing that you took this opportunity for granted, and now here you are on the other side of it. Like, damn.
Yeah, this is one of those areas where we all have to be a little careful listening to older people talk about their regrets. And I'm not saying there's nothing meaningful that can be found from doing this kind of listening, but sometimes an older person, they'll dedicate their lives to a particular path and they'll get all their questions answered. They'll look back and well, if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would have spent a little bit more time doing this. And then we say, oh, see, that's evidence that this is not the path worth pursuing. And it may be, but it also may be an indication of something else. When you take a path and you get all your questions answered, well, now you take that for granted. And you tend to think about the other version of your life that would be cool to know about. But if you flip-flopped it, there's a good chance you might still end up doing the same thing. Meaning, no matter what road you take in life, whether it involves being dedicated to one thing or 50 things, once you take that road, you're going to get your questions answered about that particular path. And then it's going to be tremendously easy for you to romanticize the other path. And so there's no escape from that. It's always going to be possible to romanticize the path that you didn't take and to wonder, my life is pretty cool now, but how much better would my life be if I had done something different than what I actually did? And there's just no way from that. And so you have to make decisions based on what your priorities and your principles are right now. What's your heart telling you the thing is that you need to try and that you need to do right now. And I think that's key. But I got one question I want to ask you about this, man, on the friendship side. There was something that he said about friends that I thought was interesting. He said that if somebody is really your friend, they'll respect that. Mm-hmm. And they'll encourage you to do you. I want to know what you think about that definition of friendship or that standard.
Yeah, I think half of that is true. I don't think the half that they'll encourage you to do that is true. I don't think the half that that's what they want for you all's relationship is true. I think the other half that they'll respect you is true if you do the thing. If your results speak loud enough, and if you chose to bet on yourself, and you can come back to that friend in whatever amount of time, and it's very clear that you made the right decision, they will respect you. But that doesn't mean that that's what they wanted. And if you ask them before you go and do the thing, they're probably not going to say, yeah, screw our friendship, go do that. Like, I completely understand that you need to go and handle that. No, that's not. They have a self-vested interest that they want a relationship with you, that they want to do the thing with you. And I've personally experienced this a lot in life. And it's tough. It's tough to choose yourself. I like to think of it as I'm choosing the work. I'm a big Kobe fan. And what I liked about Kobe is he did the work. He was committed to the work. And the work isn't necessarily clocking in and doing the 9 to 5. It's whatever you need to do to move your dreams forward. It is whatever you need to do to unlock your calling or pursue your passion or turn yourself into the highest version that you can live up to. So I've found myself in situations a lot of times where it's the work or this other thing. And again, I don't think if you're looking for somebody else to give you that validation that you can choose to work, you're probably not going to get it from them. That's a decision that has to come with inside. That's a decision that you got to be okay living with, because you're going to be the person to initiate that decision. And I think if you can get to the point where you're okay living with that, you're okay living with the consequences of missing the time in between, then, be okay with that and make that decision. And I mean, and he kind of talked about one other aspect of the friendships, about the kind of friends that people who choose that path end up having are the kind of friendships that we can pick back up like we never left, and it's just great. And unfortunately, I have a lot of those friendships where if I haven't seen or talked to somebody in 2, 3, 4 years, and we pick up the call, like there's that energy that's still alive. And we might talk about memories, and we might kind of share a little bit about what we've been up to. But I think the essence of that friendship still exists. And I think it's important to seek out friendships like that they don't necessarily have an expiration date, that there is a connection between you guys that can live on, and it doesn't need constant care and nursing for it to exist.
Yeah, there's a difference between someone saying, hey, I love the way it makes me feel when I get to be around you, and someone being your friend. Friendship has got to involve more than that. Because a fan can say the same thing, right? Like me saying, come on, I just love the way it makes me feel when I get to hang out with you. Can you make more time for me? That doesn't really say anything about the value that I add to your life beyond fanship. That doesn't say anything about my capacity to respect your priorities or push you to be a better version of yourself. And you have to be really careful that you don't equate friendship with that. Friendship has to be more than that. I like to think of it as a friend is someone that can endure your self-authenticity. They may not be exactly like you. They may not be the person to tell you to go do the thing you need to do to be true to yourself. But whenever you express that part of yourself, even if they annoy it by it, they can endure it. They can say, I accept that that's you and that's how you roll. And that's cool. You know, let's let our paths intersect at another time or at another place, but go handle your business and do you. I really love your point too about finding people who support you, but don't put the onus on them to push you to make it happen. I remember when we were talking about that Last Dance documentary and the moment when Dennis Rodman went to Vegas and just disappeared on everybody and Jordan had to go get him. My favorite part of that story was when Jordan came in a hotel room and Carmen Electra was in there with Rodman, and Jordan kind of gave Rodman the look like, let's go. And Rodman, was like, all right, and got up and left. But the part that stands out to me the most was what Carmen Electra said. She said, I didn't even know he was missing the game. And that was such a powerful moment to me, man, because there are so many people who will hang out with you all night. They'll party with you. They'll be like, yo, let's go do this. Let's go do that. And the moment your destiny comes knocking on the door being like, hey, we got to get back to work. Those same people be like, oh, I didn't even know you had a dream. I didn't even know there was something you were supposed to be doing that you were neglecting. Oh, I was just hanging out having a good time. It's not up to everybody in your life to be the one to consciously think about or keep up with everything that's supposed to be on your calendar. You got to keep up with that. And you can't look to the people that's partying with you and hanging out with you to be the one to say, hey, I guess we better cut the party short now because I'm sure you got some stuff to do. You got to be the one to draw that line. And your friends are the ones who can look you in the eye and say, word up, I got you when you do choose to draw that line. Hey, we got a few more, man. Let me play this clip from Matt Barnes talking about Kobe, the guy. No. This is actually from Matt Barnes. I got that one after this. This is actually Kobe talking about the way he approached the game in terms of his fans.
I remember being a kid and going to games, expecting to see the players play. It never occurred to me at the time that they might be tired, they might be sore, they might be sick. It never occurred to me. I just wanted to see them do what they do. I think about that. Doesn't matter if I'm sick. It doesn't matter if I have a sprained ankle. The kid that's sitting in there might be the next me sitting up there, watching and trying to get inspiration from that. I need to go out there and play.
Oh, that's great defense there by Kobe. We're talking about at 36 years old, 19th season in the league, going against the best player on the planet.
The lost art of pushing yourself. I saw you say something on Twitter one time. I forgot the words, but you said something to the effect of, I don't want to just learn how to love myself no matter what I do. I want to push myself to be great.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I mean, in so many words, it essentially was just like, I think it really talked about the healthy component of pushing yourself, that people are scared to push themselves because it doesn't seem healthy to go hard, or to push yourself, and to really push your limits. And I just disagree with that notion. I push myself because I want to. I push myself because I know I can, and I push myself permissionlessly. I'm not waiting for anybody to tell me to push myself. I'm just going to do it. Coming back to this clip, there was a game that I went to and Kobe didn't play. I was bummed, man. You know, I saved up like a couple months to get those tickets. And this is kind of when he was in his older years, and he really was battling like some serious injuries. And the game just wasn't the same. Like, what am I watching these scrubs play for? Like, I could have just done this at home on my TV. And I think this is true, and it applies to us as people as a whole, that there are people who are watching. And if you don't live up to yourself, you're letting them down. And maybe that matters to you, maybe it doesn't. But I think that is a part of your contribution to creating a better world. It's living up to your purpose. It's doing the thing. It's putting in the work because somebody else is watching. You might not be the next Michael Jordan. You might not be the next Kobe Bryant, but the person who is watching you, who is trying to draw inspiration from you, might be. So I think it's a reciprocal approach to changing the world. It's, you know, you're given everything you can give, but by at the same time, like, you're also given in ways that might be unseen and unspoken.
Yeah, it's like you've got to allow yourself the freedom to make the healthy choice, even if that means taking a day off. And you've got to allow yourself the freedom to be motivated by the recognition that your work involves something so much bigger than just what feels convenient right now. The thing that jumped out to me was Kobe saying, every one of those audiences are different every night. I can go to New York and have such a great game, but then if we're in Toronto the next night, that's an entirely different set of people. And I'm motivated by that. That inspires me. And we all have days where, because we can more easily forgive ourselves than other people, we all have days where we can sell ourselves short. And it's true. Conversations about mental health today are important. There are a lot of people that have been so overworked by guilt and by fear. There are a lot of people out there who do need to learn how to take a vacation. They do need to learn how to express what they need. They do need to learn how to not push themselves so hard. Pushing yourself too far is a real thing. And
yes,
not pushing yourself far enough is also a real thing. And we have a remarkable ability to sell ourselves short because of imposter syndrome or because of fear. We have a remarkable ability to tell ourselves some kind of story like, you know, it doesn't even make a difference if I do this. Nobody really cares anyway. You know, I don't really have what it takes. I'm a little tired. I'm unmotivated anyway. I can only work well when I'm inspired. And in the same way that mental health involves the ability to give yourself a break, mental health also involves the ability to recognize that you have the capacity to keep on hitting new levels and that you can do more than what the voice of imposter syndrome tells you that you can do. And you gotta allow yourself to be motivated by those types of things. All right, I know we almost at time, so let me play this. You laugh when I say Matt Barnes. You must have thought about the flinch moment. So I'm gonna play a little clip from Matt Barnes, who was a big part of that flinch moment, and here's what he had to say about Kobe off the court.
The person outside of basketball, Kobe, the man, the father, the businessman, and how, although basketball was over, he still attacked everything with that same passion, desire, and focus. The way he fathered, how adamant he was about trying to put his last 20 years behind him, his greatness in basketball, and be known for what was next. He was always trying to innovate. He was always trying to get better, get himself better. Oh, you guys found this footage.
This was you, of course.
So
with your sons.
I mean, really,
Kobe.
you know, he was Uncle Kobe to the boys, you know, and like I said, since when we became teammates, the twins were like 3, and he started, you know, treating them like he was his own, bringing them shoes all the time, hugging them, talking to them, bringing them in the locker room. So he was just a special person. Obviously, we know how amazing on the court he was, but he did just as amazing things off the court as well.
I had to put that in there, bro, because I knew we would be talking about the beauty of his work ethic and the value of things like pushing yourself, because he represented that so loudly. But Matt kind of took us back to a sentiment you expressed earlier, that if Kobe had worked at Trader Joe's, he would have had the Mamba mentality there too. And something that is maybe lesser known about him is when it came to investing in other people and showing other people how to discover their own path to greatness, he was just as passionate, just as ambitious, just as hardworking.
Yeah, and again, coming back to this notion that your commitment to excellence is transferable, that it goes with you in whatever you do, and you got to love that. I think one of the worst things people hate are flaky people. People who drop off and let you down and don't show up and, you know, just go MIA. And I think there's a version of that that isn't about like physically showing up. It's if you can show up emotionally for somebody, if you can show up physically for somebody, if you can show up mentally for somebody, spiritually for somebody, your ability to show up and give your all really defines who you are as a person and what is your character like. And you got to love people who you know what to expect from them. When I call TK, I know what to expect from him. You know, there's certain components about one's character that I think it should define you, and you should give people the reassurance that when they call you, like they know what they're going to get. They're going to get you at your best for whatever thing that they're calling you for. If you're helping somebody move, you know, that you're going to show up. But if you're helping somebody do whatever, right, like you're going to show up. And I think it's important. And it's just really cool to see somebody like Kobe embody that, because it just shows how important strong personal character is, and how that we can, you know, integrate that into not just what we do at work, or not just what we do regarding our hobbies, but what we do in our entire lives.
Yeah, one thing I'll emphasize is that Kobe showing up for others meant so much for those people because of the way that he showed up for his own dreams over the course of his entire career. There's a difference between you trying to help someone and the person you're trying to help actually respecting you as someone that can offer them value. And sometimes we can try to help people and we can say, here's what you need to do, or here's maybe something that could be useful to you. And that doesn't mean they'll respect you as somebody that's credible, or as somebody that understands what success means at any level of life. And so what I want to say to people who, if you want to change the world, if you want to have a positive impact on people, if you want to serve others, if you want to make a positive difference, no, you don't need to be a billionaire. No, you don't need to be the best NBA player ever. No, you don't even need to be famous. But you do need to identify what it means for you to show up to your own dreams. Because the last thing that the world needs is someone trying to motivate young people today, but who are too afraid to face the music of their own dreams. You want to serve the world, be an example of what it means to discover and do what makes you come alive in your own life. We want to thank you all for tuning in. We are back. And although we began with that clip from MJ saying, when Kobe died, a piece of me died, a piece of all of us died, I also believe that a new piece of me came alive. And that is the desire to pay tribute to all the people that have had a positive impact on my life by being the very best that I can and making every day an ongoing eulogy for all of the people that have come before me. So we're back, y'all. Season 2 is in full effect, And we're going to be seeing y'all every Wednesday at this time. It's going to be Kamau and I riffing on a lot of different things. And we thank y'all for tuning in. And when we close out, we're going to play a little clip from one of my favorite moments, Kobe versus the Phoenix Suns. The Lakers team was the underdog. They were playing against a higher seed team that was a favorite to go to the finals. And this was a beautiful moment where Kobe and this undermanned Lakers team overcame incredible odds to put themselves in an awesome position and go so much further than what the critics said they could do. But before I go to that clip, Kamau, I'm going to give you the last word to the people, man.
You know, the only thing that I wanted to get in is that I finally found out what we should call fans of the Revolution One. You know, as the marketer, I really was tinkering my brain, like what makes sense. You know, we talked about like calling people revolutionaries. It didn't really seem like it fit. So my proposal is that the fans of the Revolution One, they're individuals. And that we should call them individuals, that this is about your individual journey. And this is about, you know, what you can do that is different from what the crowd suggests that you do, that is different from what, you know, your parents suggest that you do, that your truth really lies within inside. And this journey is about unlocking that and realizing that and changing the world through that. So to all you individuals out there, we are excited for what's coming next, and we're committed to delivering it.
That's the most radical thing you can be. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out. Enjoy this inspiring moment from Mamba.
Again, the Lakers out of timeouts.
They got to be matched up here now. You know, the clock. You cannot allow precious seconds to go off the clock by not being close to a man.
They'd love to get it into Nash's hands, and they do. Ball knocked away, stolen by Parker.
There it is.
Here comes George to Kobe Bryant. Bryant inside. It's good. It's good. Tie game. 7/10 of a second remaining. A one-point game. Walton can tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you got to get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!